So, in the last video, I was talking about how society seems to be transforming from the inside out, and what we're doing is basically transforming from a very centralized type of society with institutions which govern the masses to masses which now are beginning to no longer need as much institutions. And this is taking first in the form of the transformation of media and the media industry, uh, with examples such as the Pirate Bay, Wikipedia, blogging, journalism, YouTube, and secondly, with government institutions. Transparency is very important in the new decentralized, nonlinear society. So, what is eventually going to happen is when most of the media and most of the industry that drives the economy is open source, decentralized, um, and when the masses are more empowered and democratized, and the information is more transparent, because there is no central organization to hide it. In fact, there are probably more. It's more dispersed amongst everybody. Then it's harder to hide information, and when information is hidden by the remaining institutions, the big businesses, the government, this is going to be frowned upon, and there's going to be a lot of pressure from the vast majority to stop that. And I'm not saying this is going to happen in the next 5 years. This is probably going to be a very gradual process that takes a long time to happen. But we are probably going to see a major transformation of society in this century, which, uh, for all intents and purposes, is quite amazing. I mean, this is the first time in history that real democracy can actually happen. Because the democracy we have now is a representative democracy. Again, the need for the middleman. And there's many reasons for the middleman. He didn't just butt in and, try to take advantage of us. Um, the middleman is necessary in large societies. In societies that have a lot of people, you need centralization. You need to organize, to centralize tasks, and have places that command you to go do stuff. And we need people to do it for you. We elect government officials because they represent us. Media is the same way. They represent us to sort of disperse media and information. Journalism is supposed to be for the people as well, for objective news. That obviously is not the case. It's become too detached, too centralized, too apart from people, and it's trying to now control information and work with the standing centralized forces at work. So yes, we have a lot of centralization still. Um, yes, we have a lot of big businesses and a lot of corruption to fight through. But the good news is that society is transforming from the inside out. And that's great, because if this was happening from the outside in, if people were trying to come in and change things, it would be very difficult. But the people themselves are changing. The vast majority of people are beginning to use more technology. Um, it's catching on like wildfire. There's things like Wikipedia, Google, YouTube. These things are very powerful transformative forces that are subtly shifting the mindset of many people in society. Um, and what we're going to see probably the next century is, as centralized modes of work and government begin to fail, which they are now, as we can see with the economy the way it is. It wouldn't be like this if there was more access to what's going on with the money, and if there was more input from us at what was going on with the money. This wouldn't be happening. It's not that we could have prevented it as much. I feel that with any old paradigm, whether it's the way society runs or technology or scientific age, the old paradigm is going to hold on until it can't anymore, and it's going to intensify and thrive until it hits a wall, because there's nothing stopping us. We usually keep going until we can't go anymore. In that sense, we're not necessarily forward thinking as a race, but shifts do happen, evolution does happen. Society is overall, I guess you could say, the thesis of this is society is evolving from one paradigm to another now. And it's not that this is a linear thing. It's very messy, it's very chaotic, but we can see some overall patterns here for the first time, because we have so much information accessible to us. For the first time in history, we have all of this knowledge, and now we can sort of begin to see subtle patterns that sort of connect the dots between uh, all these things that are happening. And yes, there are some connections. There are some bigger pictures at work. And one of them is a general shift in society from a linear centralized society to a nonlinear and decentralized society. This doesn't mean that postmodernism is going to be the philosophy of the 21st century. It probably means that postmodernism and anything after that is going to be. Postmodernism, I guess you could say, was the first wave of ideas after information was dispersed amongst everybody and we're able to self-reflect about a lot of things that we took for granted because of the availability of knowledge and also the availability of communication and diversity and multiculturalism and all that. This is all, it's all related. But we're entering into yet another age where it's not going to be that as much as it's going to be something after that, an integration. If you look at the internet, it is not just a decentralization. Um, that's what has been happening. But now, new things are forming. I guess you could say this is sort of like an explosion, an evolution in technological terms from single-celled organisms to multi-celled organisms, and it's going to be very complex. We're going to have complex forms of organization, of businesses, it's going to be very open source and very non-linear. So, but at the same time, it's going to be very integrated and much, much more difficult for old paradigms like big media industries and even governments to compete with this because knowledge is going to be everywhere. The people are going to be empowered not because they're smarter, as I said before, they have more access now to information, but primarily because of technology empowering people and allowing them to think new ideas and new ideas creating new technology. So it's a cyclical sort of thing. And that's what we're going to be seeing very, very soon. And we're seeing already, actually, which is quite exciting. And this is sort of my focus right now in sociology, because as far as I'm aware, this isn't really talked about too much. Yet this is one of the most profound things that's happening in society right now. So we might as well have some discussions about it, some essays, some books or something to talk about these great shifts in society. And descriptions of older shifts in society. This has happened before. And I mentioned this before in one of my other videos. The printing press had great opposition to it. Yeah, sure, we printed the Gutenberg Bible, but there was so much opposition to printing books for everybody because in the medieval ages, books were actually, I mean, I could show you pictures of books that are bound by lock and chain, kept in monasteries. I mean, this is the way we used to retain information. It was very centralized back then. And there's reasons for it. But unfortunately, for them, I mean, it'd be nice if they could see that these things are natural changes, they're shifts. Society is becoming more complex. Society is evolving. And I think perhaps in the 21st century, we will begin to see more mainstream attempts to understand the evolution of society, bigger pictures. We've been breaking down, we haven't been seeing big pictures in the 20th century. And if we have, they've been very simplistic or idealistic, such as, modernism. Postmodernism was just a critique of modernism, if you really think about it. Sure, it was more complex, but we lack any kind of bigger picture, a foresight into what's going on, pattern seeking. We want to look for that. We want to look for a little bit more. Not patterns that we project into the outside world, but patterns that we can observe accurately. And I think this is what's going to be happening a lot. Sort of like seeing the forest through the trees, I feel like will be a lot of what's happening in society, because not only will information be accessible in this century, like it is now, it's going to be much better integrated, and people will have much more of a say. Everyday people, just like I'm making a video to people I probably will never meet, but I'm still able to convey a message. This is only going to become more and more powerful and easier, and the implications of that are profound. And I guess I will end on that note. But yeah, this is the paradigm shift. This is 21st century. And please make comments, replies, videos, anything you want. Thanks for listening.